Coach Riley said a couple of things after USC's 10th spring practice on Tuesday. And it was the second thing that he said that had me smiling from east to west, thinking, this program's going to be okay.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you are watching this show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, it's always free. I always appreciate your support. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Raise your hand if you've heard me say that if there was a year for Coach Riley to roll with a true freshman at quarterback, 2025 might be the year. Raise your hand. You've heard me say it. If you watch or listen to this show regularly, you've heard me say it maybe twice, maybe three times, maybe more than that. Anyways, Coach Riley gave me another reason to feel like it's a possibility. He actually had said a couple of things after practice Tuesday. I'm going to get to the second thing in the next segment. But let's talk about the quarterback position because he was asked about it. And this also caught my attention. Look, I have zero illusions that Jaden Mayava is going to be QB1 when USC hosts Missouri State at the end of August 30th. But Coach Riley did say after practice Tuesday, he was asked to, give an update on the quarterback situation, the backups. And he gave a couple of intriguing answers. Ones that caught my attention. Ones that say, all right, the door's still open. First, quote, Husson's talent stands out on the field. He's picking up the offense quickly. He's taking advantage of having come in a little extra early, which is great. And then he flipped over to Sam Heward. Quote, Sam has been tremendous. He's done a really good job in some of the different situational football that we've done, which is not surprising with as much ball as he's played, end quote. He ended it with, and this is just a coach speak throwaway line, all three guys have done good things, stuff that we're really excited about, and the capability of doing what we want. So like I said, that last line, just a kind of a segue to go from the quarterbacks to the next topic, but I don't think Coach Riley has really settled in yet. I'm sure he's probably at 98.5%, confident that Mayava is going to be starter when USC opens the season. But that doesn't mean that Coach doesn't think he has some flexibility. I mean, everyone's going to agree, right? Husson is the future. And according to Coach Riley, it sounds like he's picking up the offense rather quickly. He's got the athleticism. He talked about Sam and how much football he's seen so far during his career. Look, you never want to get down to the third string quarterback, but USC has a guy who is probably considered third string, Sam, who has starting experience, not just, here and there. He actually has some real viable starting experience, whether it was at Washington, Cal Poly, Utah. He's been around the game. His uncle Luke is the quarterback coach. Look, after last season, here's what I want. I want the quarterback that's going to be willing to run and also limit those mental mistakes. So, if the running game and USC's defense are good enough to be the foundation in 2025, then what happens, again, just throwing it out there, what happens if Coach Riley wants to play the 2025 season the same way Notre Dame played their 2024 season? That Notre Dame team that made it to the college football playoff championship game against Ohio State. I know Notre Dame's schedule played a large role in that. Nevertheless, Notre Dame had a strong run game. They had a really strong defense. That was way more than enough to make up for the and I'm using finger quotes, average quarterback play that Riley Leonard showed last year. I mean, Notre Dame did not get there because of Riley Leonard's throwing mode, his throwing arm. It was because of his running numbers. That's what made Notre Dame's offense difficult to defend. USC needs a quarterback in 2025 that knows when to keep the ball, especially on that read option. And I'm not sure why that didn't change last year when Jaden took over in game 10, but it was just more of the same. Quarterback wasn't using, his best asset. He's got a strong arm, but he's got some legs. He could pick up yards when maybe the play's breaking down, extending the play. It never happened. So again, I'm not sure why that didn't happen. It's got to change this season. However, if Chad Bowden is correct, USC's general manager, that USC has as much talent as any team in the country, if you haven't checked out the interview he did on Kyle Matthews' podcast, go check it out, because Coach Bowden, General Manager Bowden, he kind of laid it out there. He said that any team that he saw, he literally thinks that USC has as much talent as any team in the country, as any team that he saw that played in the Sugar Bowl last year, the Orange Bowl, the national championship game. Didn't matter. He thinks USC's roster is right there with everybody else's. So if that's the case, then he's basically saying, without saying it, that Coach Riley and USC, they need to win this year. They have the ability to win this year. So if the quarterback really wasn't the focal point of Notre Dame's offense last year, it doesn't necessarily have to be in 2025 for USC. Here's the bonus, though. USC's quarterbacks, and I said plural quarterbacks, are better passers than Riley Leonard. And even more important than that, most importantly, USC has better skill players on the outside than Notre Dame had last year. I mean, I'll just start with Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon. Let's just start there. And now you've got, according to Coach Riley, his best running back room since he's been at USC. It's literally 3 deep. You've got Waymon Jordan. You've got Brian Jackson, Eli Sanders. And we know that USC's defense has NFL bodies now. Last year, they got by with just enough bodies, and the defense looked how good? Well, compared to what we know USC's defense looked like the year before with the Alex Grinch experiment, imagine year 2 D'Anton Lynn's defense with more NFL bodies, especially up front. I'm telling you, I'm getting the sense that USC is going to try and imitate what Notre Dame did last year. Lean into that run game. Lean on your defense. Use your quarterback to not just be back there to throw the ball and use, Lane and Lemon and DJ Jordan and Prince Strawn and everybody else, the tight ends. Use that asset that Jaden Mayava or Husam Longstreet, use their athleticism. That's what makes that offense that much more difficult to defend. Because now all of a sudden, everybody's defense has to worry about USC's run game with the running backs, the elite guys on the outside. Oh, and a quarterback that can not only, take the top off, throwing it downfield, but he can also, make a defense's day really difficult because he can take off and run. Spring camp has a few practices left. Tuesday was practice number 10. And then it's how do you do time? Go to Mr. Peter Arbogast. You're going to, once spring camp is over, on the 25th, 26th, you've got official visits that'll start up in May. Then you got summer player run practices. And then all of a sudden, fall camp is upon you at the end of July. I'm going to say it again. I'm not going to be surprised if Coach Riley has not made up his mind yet with this quarterback. Again, Jaden Mayaba is QB1. But I'm not going to be surprised if all of a sudden we're seeing different quarterback packages. Again, who's going to protect the ball? Who's going to not make those mental mistakes? Who's going to be willing to take off and extend plays? And if you're going to do any type of read option, you got to make sure the quarterback's reading it correctly. Last year, there was plenty of opportunity to hold on to the ball and take off. Never happened. It didn't happen consistently enough. Hopefully that changes. All right, next segment. Coach Riley talked about the Trojan family without saying the Trojan family. It's how he said it. It's what he said. And I felt it. And it's like, all right, this program is going to be okay. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if that bet wins. And I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy. Whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into the player props, that's a lot of fun. From three-pointers to steals, assists, who's going to have the most? FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, check this out. You can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Before I get into what Coach Riley said, that had me just smiling, going, all right, he gets it. I felt it. A couple of notes from practice, right? Let's start with USC tight end Lake McCree. They're shutting it down. He's done for camp. Nothing serious. Coach Riley he wanted to emphasize that. But Lake's body, it's seen enough, right? He obviously got a little bit dinged up, dented, banged up, whatever you want to call it, when USC had practice at the Coliseum on Saturday. So they're shutting it down. They want to let his body calm down, I think was the word that Coach Riley used. That quote, we're going to kind of shut him down, let the body calm down. He had just a couple little small things that he was dealing with throughout and kind of pushed through, but trying to put some reps on these other guys. In other words, we know what we're getting from Lake. Let's see what those other guys can do. We want Lake McCree to be 100% by the time fall camp rolls around because you're going to need him. You got a really nice tight end room, but it's young once Lake McCree's off the field. So, whether it's going to be Walker Lyons, Joey Olson, Walter Matthews, Neela Tupou, you got dudes, but you like having Lake McCree back there as well. And then you also have the transfer portal. That's that's open this week. In fact, it's going to be open for the next 10 days. So who was and who wasn't at practice was also noticeable. After practice, Coach Riley was asked about, hey, where's DJ Jordan, wide receiver, Xavier? Where's Braylon Connolly, cornerback? Both were absent. Coach said there's something going through the locker room right now. They're sick. They'll be back. Everything's fine. I did mention that the transfer portal, though, is open. We have one down, Lorenzo Cowan. Look, you hate to see anyone leave, but the redshirt freshman, he's from Savannah, Georgia. He's been away from home, and the competition in the defensive line room and that defensive end, that edge rush position, it's fierce. It's deep. So if you don't see yourself as part of the rotation, this is probably the best time for Lorenzo to check out other options. Again, redshirt freshman, still has 4 more years of eligibility. See what's out there, see what's available. USC's defensive that room right now, yeah. If you don't think you're going to play, and you look across the room and you see some of those bodies, Lorenzo has built his body up, but he doesn't look like, an Anthony Lucas or a Cam Fountain or a Braylon Shelby or even an Elijah Newby who moved over there. And you get the guys who are coming in. Thanos. I get it. It's easy to understand why Lorenzo is probably saying, you know what? Probably need to go play somewhere else. And then Coach Riley, he was asked about Saturday's practice at the Coliseum. I told my everydayers that they didn't have a scrimmage, but they did a lot of situational stuff. Coach Riley confirmed that, with his quote about Sam Heward. Talking about, Sam's been doing really well with the situational stuff. You also might remember on that show, on that episode, I talked about our friend Keith Biggers, linebacker. His involvement with the action from Saturday's practice, how he kind of got knocked around a little bit. He got involved with the action more than he wanted to. But Keith was just one of 150 former players who were invited to the private practice. It was a practice for just players, few recruits that were invited. So you had current players, former players, coaches. That was it. And again, some special recruit invites. Ronnie Lott was also there. Coach Riley noticed something. And I think this is when that Coach Riley finally recognized and was able to explain in words a visceral reaction of what the Trojan family is all about. Because when I watched Coach talk about Saturday's environment, what he saw, what he felt, I swear, for the first time, and he's had other similar moments, but for this first time, it really felt like Coach understood what the Trojan family connection meant. He was able to put it into words. Let me give you a couple of quotes here. We had over 150 former players there. That was pretty special. Other than a few recruits and some of the staff families, we didn't have anyone else in the Coliseum. We had all the former players around the field. It was pretty cool. At one moment, I looked over and the DBs were doing individuals, and Ronnie Lott was back there watching, pointing out a few things here and there. And you're like, geez, this is pretty good. Coach Riley had that, 15 seconds of there is a NFL Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever play the game. He's handing down knowledge to my guys today. That resonated with Riley. He saw, wow, that's what it's all about. I almost got the impression that he was awestruck. Excuse me. He also continued. So it was cool to have those guys around. One of the best things was some of the staff had to get back for recruiting responsibilities after practice, but a lot of our team stayed out there with the former players for some time. And whether it was with guys they already knew or striking up new relationships or talking about what they saw in practice, that's invaluable for us. I think they said that's the most former players that have been back for practice in a long, 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 long time. So that was a cool moment. End quote. I say things 3 times for emphasis. Coach Riley threw it in an extra. He went 4 times. Long, 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 long time. What Coach Riley was talking about, I've seen that energy before in Howard Jones Field. When the practices were open to the public, you had lines outside waiting to get in. At one point during that era, the fire marshals had to show up and say, you know what, there's too many people in there. Stop. Can't let anybody else in. That's why people will get there early to show up. I mean, during that time, you had guys like Ronnie Lott, Marcus Allen, Anthony Munoz. They were just hanging out, chatting it up with the fans. Forget the players. They were part of the Trojan family. I don't know, maybe one day Coach Riley will bring that back. But for the time being, this is what we mean, at least what I mean when I talk about the Trojan family. USC has so many former All-Americans, NFL All-Pros, Hall of Famers, guys who know what it means to leave some blood and some skin on the Coliseum grass. Having those guys around, hanging around the program. I mean, literally, it's like having your favorite uncle and cousins just coming by anytime they want, hanging out. Saying, hey, let's go toss the football around. That's the connection. That's why the guys who grew up in Southern California stayed home to play at USC. To be the next Ronnie Lott, the next Mark Carrier, or Chris Claiborne, or Charles White, or Marcus Allen, Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, Juju Smith-Schuster, Robert Woods, Marquise Lee. The list goes on and on and on. Coach Riley has a pretty good idea about USC's history and her tradition and the gluttony of excess that USC's had. By the way, I wrote an article over there on WeRC.com. Go check it out. About gluttony and how USC works well when they have a lot of things. But this time, like I said, Coach Riley, he's experienced similar moments to what happened Saturday at the Coliseum. But this time, I think it was visceral for him. He actually felt it. I felt what he saw, the way he was explaining it. And I think if the media and the fans can feel that, imagine what the team felt. To see all their former heroes, watching them practice. I'm telling you, that's the type of stuff that builds up the culture, the locker room camaraderie. You need more of that at USC. So like I said, maybe one day practices will be open again, but I like that baby step. And the way Coach Riley was explaining it, just to see all those former Trojans wrapped around the Coliseum field, hanging out, talking, giving pointers, explaining to today's players how important it is to wear that cardinal and gold, the responsibility that comes with it. Yeah, pretty special day. Wish I could have been there. Really wish I could have been there. Anyways, one more segment to go. We're going to talk about, I got my starting secondary. I'm ready to give that to you. Whether it was Antonlynn, Doug Bell, Trevon Reed, or Lincoln Riley saying it, this is what Coach Riley said. They would not hesitate to put their best 5 defensive backs on the field. Just put the best 5 out there, find their spot, make it happen. Do not be surprised if USC puts 5 defensive backs out there on the field, regardless of their position, and 3 of them are safeties. Right? I could see Bishop Fitzgerald playing strong safety. I could see Christian Pierce playing free safety. I could see Kamari Ramsey playing nickel. So now you just have to settle in on the cornerbacks. You want to go young with the guys you recruited? All right, you've got those 3 safeties. I'm considering the nickel a safety spot right now, even though it's the inside cornerback. You go with Marcellus Williams on one side, Braylon Connolly on the other. So you got youth on the outside with 3 really talented safeties in the middle for support. You want to go with experience on the outside? Fine, okay. You got DeCarlos Nicholson, you got Prophet Brown, you got DJ Harvey. So those are my top 5 cornerbacks. Sellis, Conley, Nicholson, Brown, Harvey, and not in any particular order, just rattling off the names. Obviously, you've got Ramsey, you've got Fitzgerald, you've got Pierce. Those are going to be the guys, the first 3 guys to get a chance at the safety spots. After that, again, you got youth, Marquise Gallegos. That's one name. But what do you think? What about Kamari at nickel? My buddy Eric McKinney over there at WeRSC.com, he brought it up on Inside the Trojan Huddle show that we recorded on Tuesday this week. And then when the team was practicing later that afternoon, guess where Ramsey was lining up? At nickel. It's almost like Eric knew something. Eric knows a lot. Pretty smart dude. That might be the best 5 defensive. That might be the best secondary you could start with right there. Get your 3 top guys, Pierce, Fitzgerald, Ramsey. Get them settled in. Figure out the cornerbacks after that, because those cornerbacks, they're not going to have to cover as long in 2025 because you've got so much more. I think they're going to create more pressure from the defensive line. You brought in those bodies. You brought in the 2 guys from the SEC, Keyshawn Silver, Jamal Jarrett. Second year in the system with the guys who are returning, Anthony Lucas, Cam Fountain, Braylon Shelby. I think we're going to be okay. So you have the luxury of saying, all right, you know what? We've got 2 talented young guys at cornerback. Let's give them a shot, especially early in the season against Missouri State, Georgia Southern. But I think you're going to roll with a 5 cornerback rotation because you got Prophet Brown, you got DeCarlos Nicholson, you got DJ Harvey. Who knows? Maybe Tristan Castro finds a spot in the rotation. Isaiah Rubin. We'll find out if USC is going to look in the transfer portal for an experienced defensive back, cornerback, or not. I don't think they really need to. Linebacker needs to be the first priority on the list for depth. After that, again, you're just looking for depth pieces. Eric Gentry, Desmond Stevens, they're going to be your linebackers on the field a lot. But then you just have the coaching staff has to figure out, are we comfortable with Jaden Walker and Anthony Beavers after that? Garrison Madden. Do we need to go get another piece for depth? Not necessarily a starter, but somebody who can come in and roll, plug in, play when you need him. If Gentry's healthy and he can stay on the field all year, we're good. But with the transfer portal opening this week, and I'm sure Lorenzo Cowan's not going to be the last. I'm sure there'll be at least, I'm going to say the number's going to be between 1 and 5. But I would take the under. We'll see. We will see. But with the transfer portal open, priority, linebacker, maybe an offensive lineman that's versatile, that can play tackle or interior. So you go linebacker, offensive line, cornerback, wide receiver. Those are the 4. If you want to roll the dice out there, see if there's a tight end, just for experience purposes, just because you know Lake McCree's been through a lot, his body has. Maybe that's another spot. But other than that, I'm with Coach Riley. I think the roster is pretty close to where you want it. Chad Bowden thinks you got as much talent as anybody in the country. So let's roll with the guys you've been recruiting. Let's get them developed. Let's play them. Let's roll. Let's go. All right, that's it for this episode of Locked On USC. I'll be back again tomorrow. We'll see if recruiting picks up. It's been a slow week. All right, like I said, once this month is over, May starts, official visits kick in, then things get really serious. Right now, USC's got 22 commits. Target number is 35. We'll see what happens. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do. By the way, don't forget, get on over there to werc.com. Spend that buck. Take advantage of that weekly subscription we got going. You won't regret it.